Good morning. Let's come and watch this video. If you watched any of the previous videos, welcome back. If you haven't seen any before, then I'm Andy. I'm an ultra cyclist on the south coast of the UK. These videos are going to be documenting my training going into the 2024 season. So if you've got any ultra endurance goals yourself, follow along, subscribe. Maybe you'll get something out of it. Maybe you can teach me something. So it seems autumn is in full swing here on the south coast of England. Leaves are on the turn, roads are wet, muddy, but I'm out all day on the bike, so pretty damn lucky. Got a rain jacket, full length mud guards, no excuses. If the diary says endurance on Sunday, it's endurance on Sunday. In this video, I'll talk a bit about my training going into the last couple of months of the year. I've got a few months of base building before Christmas, really, for my events. Come back and let me know if I'm on them or not. So, endurance riding, turbo sessions, relax a bit on the diet front, get a little bit more podgy, getting a little bit more doughy at the moment, but that's fine. Enjoying myself. Basically giving myself 8 weeks until Christmas to train hard. 2 4-week blocks, 3 hard weeks, 1 rest week, and kicked it all off recently with a RAM test to get my accurate FTP and numbers to train from. So I'll go into more detail about how that works if you haven't done one yourself. It's not the most fun experience, but on the menu for today, we got about 100 miles roughly from my home city of Portsmouth along the south coast to Brighton. It's quite a popular route where I'm from, probably because it's as flat as you could ever hope a route to be. We're riding alongside of South Downs National Park to my left, the ocean to my right, along the shoreline basically, and there is zero climbing except for one small bridge ahead. Got a pretty stiff headwind today. Hopefully you can hear me over the wind, but I'll find out later on. Thankfully it's out and back, so as soon as I turn around it'll all be worth it. Also, for a bit of fun, I recorded the ramp test, so you can see how that goes. I put all the numbers on the screen as well, so you can see what numbers I came out with, what my FTP is, what I'm going into base training with, zones wise. Nowhere I'd rather be riding right now. Mallorca, Tenerife. Well, actually, it could always be worse. And I've just jinxed myself. I think that's a Samoyed, that dog. Absolutely beautiful. What a treat. Right, turn back now. Homeward bound. Tailwind feels more like a cross tailwind, but I'll take it. Weather looks pretty good going this way as well. So fingers crossed. No more rain. Well, it might be wet. Can't feel my feet. But how lucky am I? Never lose sight of how lucky I am to get to do this pretty much whenever I want. Alright, brightening up a little bit. Back to the subject at hand, winter training. So I'll explain what I'm going to do. I'm not a coach, qualified or anything, this is just what has kind of worked for me in the past. So if anybody watching has any suggestions how to improve it, tips, then send them across. I'd be really interested to see it. Essentially, I'm breaking mine down into before Christmas and after Christmas, and the reason for that is that hopefully by the new year I have a better idea of what I've been accepted onto and what my training needs to look like in the first quarter of next year. So for the next 8 weeks or so, I'll be following a pretty rigid process every week in 4-week blocks. So I do 3 weeks of intensity and hard work, and then 1 week of rest. Normally, I'll do an FTP test and keep that FTP for a little while. And this time, I decided I'm going to test the start of every 4-week block. Try and squeeze as much out before Christmas as I can get. I start with a RAM test. I prefer a RAM test to an FTP test. I think it's more accurate because Otherwise, there's guesswork involved in what number you're trying to hold for 20 minutes. Whereas a RAM test, just go to failure. Then I'll have my training zones set out and do my intensity sessions during the week based on those numbers. Fingers crossed, in a couple of weeks I'll retest again and I'll have had a small increase in the FTP. But let's see. I tried something a bit different last winter and it didn't really work for me. Strength training, rather than going all in with turbo sessions, spent more time squatting, doing weights, and I was a bit disappointed with the outcome really. So I came out of last winter with a lower FTP than I'd have liked really. My FTP in the spring was 256, so not bad, but it's been a lot higher in the past. It's a bit of a struggle trying to train to power numbers and riding endurance. There's a real trade-off between the fatigue that you build up in your endurance rides and how they affect your output on your intensity days. My weeks are generally endurance ride on a Sunday, like today, intensity Tuesday and Thursday, and then an easy ride on Saturday. Repeat. I think it's no secret that one of the most important factors of training is consistency. So that's the routine I tend to follow. It's almost a ritualistic approach to training. Some people might think it's boring. Train at the same time and the same day every week, same rest weeks, same food most days. But in the past it worked. Before I started to really ramp up my weekly mileage, I used to ride fast group rides on a Sunday quite regularly. Doing that with intensity during the week, my FTP was much better. The highest it had ever got was 287. It's not too bad really, although I'd like to be above 300 would be really nice. One thing I will say, I dieted fairly strictly after last spring and got my weight down from about 78 kilos down during the race season under 70 kilos, 69.5, and kept the FTP the same, so at least the watts per kilo was much better. So that's the plan for this winter, get my FTP up as much as I possibly can by Christmas. And once I start dieting and getting my weight down in the spring, then that watts per kilo is what I'm really interested in. So the workouts are all generally pretty similar. The midweek rides, longer, sustained, threshold efforts, it's really what I need. I don't need a sprint or a kick, but I'm open to suggestions. And on the weekends, these long rides generally will be around about 100 miles or so. I believe in base training, so the midweek sessions will push up the FTP, hopefully. The weekend rides give me broader blood vessels, capillaries. That's the hope. And then when the new year comes, I can start working on some really specific training. So yeah, I'm gonna go meet a good mate now, go get some coffee, bagel, probably warm up a bit, go back. I'll show you the snippets of the RAM test, see how well I did, what numbers I'm working with this winter, how much it hurt. It really bloody hurt. So, see you shortly. Typical, spoke too soon. well. Open my big bloody mouth. Nearly home. See you later. Just like that, we're back in sunny Portsmouth. It's a pretty good ride, to be honest. About 85 miles. A little bit wet, but no complaints. It was a good training ride. Okay, back home, out of the rain, in the dry, feeling much better. So this is the ramp test. I'll explain what a ramp test is for those who've never done one, although I appreciate some of you will have done ramp tests yourselves before. But essentially it's a test to ascertain my functional threshold power. That's a number in watts that I should theoretically be able to hold for an hour before I'm completely cracked and can't ride anymore. It's important to have an accurate functional threshold power so that when you're training to power zones on a turbo trainer, you're getting the correct benefit from the sessions. This is for me around about a 20-minute test. I won't show the whole thing, I'll just show snips of it and show you the result at the end. The test begins with a 5-minute free ride. You just spin the legs for 5 minutes, get them warmed up, a couple of leg openers, get ready to get started and bring on the pain. Resistance is controlled by the software and by the turbo trainer. I keep it in ERG mode and the system will increase the resistance by 20 watts every 1 minute until you fail. Okay, wish me luck. Minute 1, here we go. At the bottom of the screen, you can see the watts that I'm pushing live, so keep an eye on that, watch those increase. Top left is the cadence, that's how fast I'm pushing the cranks and revolutions per minute. And above that is a live reading of my heart rate. So far so good, feeling pretty easy now. It's just a case of turning the cranks at roughly 90 RPM is what I'm aiming for, drinking plenty of water, listening to some good music. So up to around 200 watts roughly, feeling pretty good still by this point. It's taking the slack up in the pedals a bit more, I am pushing, just trying to keep that rhythm up. 280 to 300 watts. So getting towards VO2 max territory for me now. Legs are starting to really bite, and breathing's getting heavier, so just trying to keep that under control. So at this point, I'm basically in survival mode. I can feel I'm nearing the end. I've still got more to give, so just got to keep it under control, keep the breathing under control, and keep on pushing. One thing I noticed by this point is that my heart rate data is not right. I use a Whoop, and I'm not sure if anybody watching also uses Whoop, but just finding once I get to this point and my heart rate should be bouncing off the rev limiter, it starts to drop. Don't know why that is. So now my body's basically in crisis mode. I can feel the lactate everywhere, everything hurts, breathing's completely out of control, and it's just a case of squeezing every last little drop out. And there we are, all done, test finished. The second you stop pedaling, the pain pretty much subsides. So the way you calculate your functional threshold power, the system will take the highest 1 minute power you produce towards the end of this test. It will take 75% of that number in watts. That will be your FTP. So my new FTP, based on this test, is 270 watts. Quite happy with that given that I did no real structured training through the summer, but to be honest, the number's almost irrelevant because it's purely a benchmark to train against through my training blocks. The most important thing is to have an accurate FTP at the start, to do quality training, and to know at the end of my training blocks that I got fitter. Thanks for sticking around and watching this, watching me rip my own legs off. you're interested to see how these workouts pan out, whether I get any fitter or not at the end, subscribe and follow along. Maybe they might help inform your own training, or if you've got any suggestions on things I can do differently or better, let me know, because I'll be genuinely interested to hear. But anyway, I'll keep you in the loop. Thanks for watching again, and I'll see you out on the road.